This snake is so beautiful. I don't understand how I just forgot about it. And that was actually the #1 reason that I did a second part to this video. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle, and this is Elle's Reptiles. This week, we are doing a part 2 to the Dream Reptiles list that I did a few weeks back. I did that list, I was editing that list and going through old reptile show footage for B-roll for that video, and immediately remembered all of the animals that I forgot to list, and there was a lot. So I decided that I'm going to do a part 2 to supplement that. And plus, a lot of these animals are a lot more rare than a lot of those animals, and that's why I forgot that they existed for a minute. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by you guys.
So make sure to stay to the end of the video to find out more about our Etsy shop.
And the new products that we have. Without further ado, let's get started. #1 is an animal that I talked about for such a long time after we went to Snake Discovery's build off the first year, and I don't understand how I just forgot about it. That is the black-headed python. This snake is so beautiful, and I got to hold one at the Snake Discovery facility, and it was the sweetest animal. It was like, the size was so perfect. It was holdable and big, but not long and scrawny like a corn snake or king snake, and not super thick like a ball python. It was so perfect and so beautiful, and its temperament was so amazing. I fell in love with that snake, and that was actually the #1 reason that I did a second part to this video, is because I was mad at myself for forgetting the black-headed python. That one and the next one on the list is the reason that you have a part 2 right now. I say that I won't be getting any of these animals anytime soon, but that one would probably be an exception. I could figure out where that animal would go because they're so cool. And the second animal on this list that made me want to redo the entire video while I was editing is the monkey-tailed skink. I talk about this animal all the time, or the prehensile-tailed skink. These animals are so cool. They are absolutely adorable. They have a very unique face. They have a face that no other reptile really has, and some may say that's a terrible thing. I think it's adorable. I think they're so cool. The way that they just use those tails like a monkey or just as another appendage is so cool to me. Super cool thing about these guys is that they are strictly vegetarian, and that would make life so easy, not having to deal with live bugs. The big thing about these animals though is that they require a very large amount of space. They are an animal that I would absolutely love to work with one day. Next up, we have the Western Madagascar Tree Boa. I saw this for the first time a few years ago at a reptile show, and me and Den both just looked at each other and were just like, what is this snake? Because they are so beautiful. They have such a unique patterning on them. They're just so cool. I don't think that I've seen any since then. They are an arboreal snake, which love that. They stay pretty small. Like, they get, I think, around 4 to 5-ish foot, which is not terribly big, and I just think that would be such a cool animal to have. One that I rarely see, but so beautiful. Speaking of arboreal snakes, the Rhino Rat Snake. These guys are just super, super cool. This is another one that is very unique in the way that they look. They have that rhino horn. They are this really pretty green. I just love tree snakes so, so much. They're so cool to me, maybe because I've only ever kept non-tree snakes. I mean, this guy likes to climb, but he's not really a tree snake. They're just super fascinating to me. The Rhino Rat Snake is another one that I very rarely see. I've only ever seen a couple of times at reptile shows. They're just super fascinating. Next up, we have the Indian Star Tortoise. Tortoises are not an animal that generally make dream lists for me, just because they can potentially get very, very big and they live for a very, very long time. But the Indian Star Tortoise actually stays pretty small. They are very difficult to find, and when you do find them, they tend to be pretty expensive. But this is on my dream reptile list, and it is one that I have been interested in for a little while now. As we were building this room, we actually played around with the idea of just having in the dead center of the room just a very long tortoise enclosure. However, that would have made filming tank setups and building tanks and stuff very difficult and unsafe for that animal, so we did not do that. But if I were to ever get a tortoise in the future, it would probably be that one, or a Herman's tortoise. Those are really cool too, but it would probably be that one. Going on to something a little more tame, it is a paradox ball python. Paradox ball pythons are just the coolest. You guys know that I adore pied ball pythons just because of that abrupt pattern change. You go from an all white snake to a pattern, and I love it. It looks like it's painted on, and the paradox is very similar to that. You have all these different morph patterning. Super cool, that abrupt change of patterns. These things are crazy expensive. They're thousands of dollars and can even get into the tens of thousands of dollars, and that is not something that I have nor will ever have the budget for. But in terms of just dreaming of future reptiles, that is definitely on the list. Next up, the emerald tree skink. I hadn't even heard of these until Clint's Reptiles. Clint's Reptiles sold me on this animal. Seeing his excitement about these animals is what pushed me to actually find out more about these animals.
The best personality of any lizard ever. In fact, I have no ability to explain why a little lizard should be as friendly and delightful and interested in interacting with people as they are, but they are the most special lizards in the world. But what I have in mind is the greatest of all pet lizards, the emerald tree skink.
These guys are a beautiful green color, and they like to live in the trees. They are arboreal. They are a diurnal animal, so that's fun. I love skinks, and they are very much like skinky crested geckos, I guess. Next up, we have the green tree python. Green tree pythons are such cool snakes. They just hang out in that one position all the time. I mean, obviously they move, they eat, but them just hanging out in the most picture perfect position at all times is so cool to me. They are also another one that starts out a different color than they end up, which love that so much. Love seeing the transitioning of colors and patterns from a reptile being a baby to an adult. That's super cool. This has also been on Den's dream reptile list for forever, and I honestly am not sure why we never got one, but yeah, they're awesome. The false chameleon. This is one that I hadn't heard of until Snake Discovery. Snake Discovery was the first one that I saw that made videos talking about this animal. Again, we have an arboreal animal that likes to hang out in the trees. They like to be high up, and they have that way of the chameleon eye movement and the slow movement, but they're not actually chameleons. I don't know. They're just really cool, and they have like a mohawk beard, which you have to love that. Like, that's awesome. I've stated before that I don't plan to get chameleons again ever, but a false chameleon, that's a different story, and that is definitely something that I would consider in the future. And the last one on the list is the lily white crested gecko, another one that I was so mad at myself for not thinking about in my other list. I have been trying to procure a lily white crested gecko for such a long time. They're so beautiful. As you guys know, crested geckos are my favorite animal anyway, and that color, that patterning is perfection. I fell in love with this pattern the first time I saw it, because the first time I saw it, it was mind-blowing to me that there was the color white on a crested gecko. That is not normal, or now it is. It was not normal at the time. That's one that I would not turn down if given the opportunity. The lily white crested gecko is absolutely beautiful, and yeah. And my two honorable mentions that I purposely did not mention in the last video, but I like to have honorable mentions of these, so we're gonna list them anyway, is going to be the tegu and the dwarf retic. They are honorable mentions because they are not legal to own in the state that I live in, but they are animals that I very, very much am interested in. I've always wanted a tegu so bad. It broke my heart when they were made illegal, and my fascination with dwarf retics didn't happen until after they were made illegal, and it was already too late for me, so makes me sad. Both very cool animals, but unfortunately they are not legal here, so maybe one day that'll be fixed and they will become legal here again, but wishful thinking. But that is it. That is all that I have for this week's video. Let me know down below what some of your dream reptiles are. You guys had some amazing ones in the comments of the last video. So yeah, keep those coming because I absolutely love, especially when you guys are mentioning animals that I've never heard of. Always super fun to research and learn about new animals. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by you guys.
And us.
As you guys know, we've had an Etsy shop for a while, and we have new things. We have new colors and new items and new designs of items. This has cool like ridges and stuff going on.
Some really cool new frog tongs.
So if you have not checked out our shop already, or if you haven't in a little while, make sure to go to ellsreptiles.etsy.com to see all the cool things that we have for your animals.
Yep, coolest shop on Etsy. So if you want to support us, make sure you support yourself by checking out our shop and buying some of our cool stuff.
And thank you so much to all of those that have been supporting the shop. It really does mean the world. Thanks. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials, like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shout out is here. This week's Instagram shout out is here. Thank you so much for liking and following and subscribing and commenting and sharing and all that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. No, you are who I hear. Next up, we have the green tree Next up, we have you guys had some amazing dream animals in the last video, and you guys had some amazing ones in the Test. Okay, it looks like the volume is working.
Alrighty.
Take two.
Take-it-y two.
This video is sponsored by you guys when you sponsor. No. How do we normally phrase that? Okay, the end.
All that getting ready for that.